Could the Patriots make a surprising selection at 4th overall? We'll tell you who here on Pat's Cast.
Clock's ticking, who's the pick? Pat's Cast calling, gotta make it stick. Hunter's gone, Carter too. Now
Welcome to Pat's Cast. I'm Brad Whitaker. We're a little over a month away now from the NFL Draft, and a lot could change in the next 4.5 weeks, which is why I'm going to tell you a few players, surprising players, that the Patriots may consider drafting at 4th overall, or even if they trade back just slightly. These are players that may sound a little bit crazy right now, but we know a lot can change between now and late April, and I think some of these guys may move up the draft boards if they haven't already. But before I get to that, the New England Patriots made a big move today on the offensive line, adding a strong piece there, and I use that word strong very loosely. They added center Garrett Bradbury from the Minnesota Vikings, spent the last 5 years of his career in Minnesota. Going to break down the good, the bad, and the ugly about this acquisition. In fact, I'm just going to skip the bad and go straight to the ugly. But let's start with the good. This is obviously a much-needed move after the Patriots cut David Andrews. A surprising move. I guess he failed his physical. There were rumors it might happen. But right now, they need a starting center, and their options are very limited. They're getting a starting center, a 5-year starter, that can fit into that lineup right away on day one. And Garrett Bradbury has a lot of talent. He was a 2019 first-round pick from Minnesota, coming off of his first contract, obviously. And the Patriots got him on a very team-friendly deal. Just 2 years, $12 million total, but only about $3.8 million of that is guaranteed. So I'm guessing there's a ton of incentives in there based on his availability and his level of play. And it also opens up the door to the Patriots potentially cutting this guy right away if it ultimately doesn't work out and you're only losing a little less than $4 million. And that's why I'm going to get to the ugly, because there is sadly quite a bit of ugly with Garrett Bradbury, at least recently. That doesn't mean he's not going to be your starting center week one. I think he probably is. But let's start with this. He had the highest one-on-one pressure rate of centers in the NFL last season, a whopping 12.7%. When he's pass blocking, almost 13% of the time he allows a pressure. That is not good for any offensive lineman, much less a center. Horrendous pass blocking grade last year. According to Pro Football Focus, he was 55th overall out of 64 NFL centers. That puts him in the 14th percentile of pass blockers. Mind you, that is not the top 14%, that is the bottom 14%. Not great there. Run blocking was much better, though. 14th overall of 64 centers. That puts him in the 78th percentile among NFL starting centers. So overall, according to PFF, he is the 33rd ranked center in the NFL out of 64 players available. That puts him in the 48th percentile. So very mediocre guy. Like I've said many times, I will take mediocre at this point on the offensive line, but I hope this is a real competition for the center job, because there's a real chance that this doesn't work out. I mean, this is a guy that was in Kevin Stefanski's offense, known for their strong offensive line play, although late in the season was not great, particularly Garrett Bradbury, but still, he's in, not Kevin Stefanski, Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, one of the best offenses, if not the best offensive mind in the NFL, and he still struggled last year with that Minnesota Vikings offense and his ability to protect Sam Darnold. So how much is he going to improve in New England? I mean, he's still young, allegedly heading into the prime of his career, going into his second contract. We've heard rumors that Dante Scarnecchia will be around. You know, he's only 145 years old at this point, so just kind of as a consultant, helping the offensive line. Doug Marrone, obviously an experienced NFL coach, NFL head coach. In fact, he is now the offensive line coach. Hopefully between those two and adding Josh McDaniels and the discipline of Mike Vrabel as the head coach, he can be a serviceable center. But it's not a move I'm very excited about. This was a need-based move because really at this point it is a competition between three guys. There's Garrett Bradbury, who we just mentioned. There's Cole Strange, who I think started 1 or 2 games at center last year, didn't play very well. Hard to tell if that's just him coming off of an injury or if he was just rusty, so hard to assess if he'll be a good NFL center. Now, a lot of people evaluated Cole Strange when he entered the NFL, not as a left guard necessarily, but as a future center. Greg Bedard said he might make a great center, took snaps at center in the Senior Bowl. So I think this is a real competition between those two. Cole Strange may be starting at left guard when all's said and done, but he will be in the mix at center, and a lot depends on, City So, Layden Robinson, or if the Patriots add another left guard, if Cole Strange will take that job. But I hope it is a competition between Strange and Bradbury. Don't forget about Jake Andrews. He's still there. I think we all assumed Jake Andrews would be the heir apparent to David Andrews because they have the same last name, even though the two are not related at all whatsoever. Don't know what's going on with Jake Andrews. Don't know how much he's developed, if he's even part of that competition. But really, it's just down to those three guys right now. And don't forget about Ben Brown. Ben Brown is coming back. He did a decent job last year as a backup center. So who knows? It's really down to those four, not just Andrew Strange and Bradbury. Ben Brown will be in that mix as well. But enough offensive line center talk. Let's get to the real meat of this podcast, which is who might the Patriots select at 4th overall. And I think the obvious choice, if Travis Hunter is available, you take him. Starting number 1 wide receiver, day one, might play corner a little bit, generational talent, take him. If he's not available and Abdul Carter is available, you take him. You got a lot of decent edge rushers on that roster, but suddenly you add Abdul Carter, the Patriots probably have the best pass rush in the NFL. And right now, they're already getting pretty close to that. Even though they had arguably the worst in the league last year, their moves this offseason, all pretty much on the defensive side, have made them have arguably a top 5, but probably a top 10 pass rush in the NFL. You add Abdul Carter to that mix, they might be the best in the league. But let's just assume neither of those guys are available, and the Patriots do not have the opportunity to trade back. I am going to talk a little bit of trade back in this, but 4th overall, Travis Hunter's off the board. Abdul Carter's off the board. You're obviously not taking Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders. You got Drake May as your quarterback. The player du jour right now is Tet McMillan, 6'5", 212-pound wide receiver, boundary, big-bodied X, vertical wide receiver out of the University of Arizona. Had an okay 40 time this week. Now, it was hand-timed. There were rumors that it was much faster. I think it was Jordan Schultz said he ran a 4.48 at his pro day. It turns out it was hand-timed. He ran 3, a 4.54, a 4.55, and a 4.57. So a whole 6/100ths of a second slower than we were expecting. And that's a lot when it comes to the 40-yard dash. And this is the biggest concern with Tet McMillan is we know he has the physical tools, right? We know he has the catch radius. He can make tremendous one-handed catches. He turns 50-50 balls into 90-10 balls. Great player, but can he separate? Can he get away from the sticky NFL defenders? He had some trouble doing that in Arizona, going against Pac-12 or whatever conference they're in these days. Still had a decent season last year, don't get me wrong. 84 receptions, almost 1,400 yards, and 8 touchdowns in 13 games, which is a huge jump from the previous season. More than doubled his receptions, basically doubled his yardage, and almost doubled his touchdown total from the year before. So he still has a pretty high ceiling. There are a ton of Patriots fans out there that love Tet McMillan. There's many that think he might, in fact, be better than Travis Hunter as the number 1 wide receiver. I heavily disagree with that. In fact, I think he might be the number 3 receiver in this draft. I'll get to number 2 in just a moment. Travis Hunter, obviously number 1. But he would be a good fit, right? If he is able to separate, if he's able to be a Mike Evans type player, which is comparable, right? Mike Evans ran a 4.53 at the scouting combine before he entered the NFL, or at his pro day. I'm not sure which one it was. Very similar skill set. In fact, I would say Tet McMillan may be more athletic, more vertical than a guy like Mike Evans. But Mike Evans can get away from receivers, and I'm not sure Tet McMillan can. But if he can, and the Patriots see him as a wide receiver worthy of being selected at 4th overall, you got a guy with size and strength, the ability to win contested catches, boundary X wide receiver, something they haven't really had since Randy Moss. Not that it's a requirement for Josh McDaniels, but it certainly helps. And a lot of people would not consider that a reach at this point at 4th overall. I think it's a reach. I think he's probably a top 10 talent, but many think he's the best wide receiver in the draft, and I've seen plenty of mock drafts that have Tet McMillan falling to the Patriots at 4th overall. That said, if you're going to go after a wide receiver in the first round, there's one guy that is moving up the draft boards like crazy right now, or at least the mock draft boards, who I think may end up cracking the top 10. Now, he was rumored to be like middle second round. A month ago, I saw him in many Patriots mock drafts going in the second round, even saw him in the third round at certain points. I've seen him as high now as 12th overall. I've seen multiple mock drafts that have Matthew Golden out of the University of Texas being selected by the Dallas Cowboys at 12th overall. And I think he's going to keep moving up the board. I think this is like a Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze situation where their stock just keeps getting higher and higher as the draft gets closer and closer. Had an incredible 40-yard dash, ran a 4.29 at the combine. Decent vertical jump, 36 inches, above average broad jump. Arm length and wingspan are below average. Not sure how important that is for receivers, but this is the type of guy that will be able to separate. So all the concerns you have about Tet McMillan, yeah, he doesn't have the size or the catch radius of a Tet McMillan, but he has the speed, the ability to separate, and had a pretty good year at Texas this past year. Finished just shy of 1,000 yards, 58 receptions, 9 touchdowns, across 15 starts. Also a special teams guy, had 10 kick returns for 201 yards, average about 20 yards there. We'll see how that fits in the new NFL format if they don't change that rule this year. But Matthew Golden, I think, might be the number 2 best wide receiver in the draft. And do I think he's going to move up the draft board so he's being drafted 4th overall by the Patriots? Probably not. But he's not that X-boundary receiver, but he can stretch the field in a way that the Patriots can't really do outside of Demario Douglas, and Demario Douglas is small, so his speedy ability to stretch the field only goes so far because he can't exactly throw it over the defender with Demario Douglas. He's more of a slot guy. Not to say Golden doesn't fit as a slot guy, because he kind of does, but this is sort of addressing the need without getting that big body boundary X like Tet McMillan. I think if the Patriots do indeed trade back from 4th overall and are finding themselves somewhere between, say, 8 and 12, Matthew Golden should be a heavy consideration. But the days of him falling to the Patriots in the second round or even the third round that I was seeing 2 months ago, those are gone. He's going to be off the board, potentially in the top 10, probably in the top 15. So Matthew Golden is a guy to keep an eye on, can make a real difference for the Patriots, and I think he's probably a better receiver when all's said and done than Tet McMillan, unless they believe Tet McMillan can separate at the NFL level. Another guy that I have seen in so many YouTube comments mentioned by Patriots fans on who they should draft at 4th overall, Ashton Jeanty, 5'8", 217-pound running back out of Boise State University. Now, I've heard there are 2 blue chip players in this draft. Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State. Travis Hunter, wide receiver and corner, University of Colorado. I have heard also there are 3 blue chip players in this draft, and Ashton Jeanty is one of them. Had a spectacular season last year with Boise State. Ran the ball almost 400 times, piled up over 2,600 yards, averaged more than 7 yards per carry. Didn't even have the best offensive line in front of him. Did not have great run blocking all year. Tremendous yards after contact guy. Had 29 touchdowns. Also can work a little bit in the passing game. Had 23 receptions, 138 yards, and 1 touchdown there. Really didn't do much the year before at Boise State, but basically doubled his yard total this past year. Although his receiving production did dip, but he earned the Maxwell Award, the Walker Award, and was a Heisman Trophy runner-up. So selecting a running back at 4th overall, though, I just do not see it happening, just because this is the most dependent position in the NFL. If this were the 80s and 90s where running backs are taken in the top 3, that would be one thing, but I don't know. Is Ashton Jeanty, Genty, I don't know, I may be mispronouncing his name, but is he going to be a good yards after contact guy against NFL defenders after playing at Boise State? I'm not sure. Plus, he's undersized. You know, at 5'8", you would hope that you could fit him in as like a third down passing running back, a James White type player. But if you're drafting this guy, you want him to be your workhorse number 1 running back because that's who he was at Boise State. I don't think his size is as big of an issue. If you watch the highlight reels, you know that that's not really a limitation for him, and he uses it to his advantage. But I just do not see the Patriots taking a running back at 4th overall, especially with Ramondre Stevenson. I know he's regressed a little. Started off the year well this season, but there were the fumbling issues, and then at the end of the year, Antonio Gibson was clearly the better back for the Patriots. Similar story the year before. Zeke was the better back in the second half of the year compared to Ramondre Stevenson. But I also think Antonio Gibson can be a number 1 running back, right? So I'm pretty happy with those two. And if you're going to prioritize running back, you should probably do it in the middle rounds because this is a bit of a reach at 4th overall. He could get drafted at like 5th or 6th, but I think 4th overall. I've seen the Raiders drafting him on a lot of mock draft boards. I think they're drafting at 6th, so 6th or 7th. But he is an incredible player, right? I mean, explosive, 99th percentile in missed tackles forced per attempt, would give Drake May a reliable weapon, could help him utilize play action a lot more. You know Josh McDaniels could do a lot with him, but they have so many other needs when it comes to receiver, when it comes to offensive line, that using that pick, maybe if you trade back and he's available, but even then, you still got to address those biggest needs, especially at this point when, let's say they get Cam Robinson or Tyron Smith at left tackle, you're still going to have to prioritize left tackle. Let's say you trade for Brandon Ayuk. You still draft Travis Hunter if he's available, right? So if they can address all their needs in free agency the rest of the way, then maybe I'd consider it, but I don't want to draft a running back at 4th overall. So an alternative that I would recommend, if he's available come the 3rd or 4th round, which I think he might be, if you watch the college football playoff, you know this name, Cam Scatterbo, Arizona State, 5'11", 215 pounds, tremendous player. This is a Mike Vrabel type running back, tough as all get out, really has had a great story throughout his career at Arizona State. Basically was their entire offense in the college football playoff, and they almost had an upset victory there and were able to move on. Scatterbo, has some limitations in terms of his athleticism, but decent vertical jump, decent broad jump, has shorter arms, which you can definitely see on tape when you watch him, but not as much of an issue for a running back. This past season, he rushed for 1,711 yards, rushed the ball 293 times, averaged just under 6 yards per carry, and 19 touchdowns. He also threw a 42-yard touchdown pass in the Peach Bowl game. I think that might have been the college football playoff game. He won Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, finished 5th in the Heisman Trophy, and still going to fall somewhere around the 3rd or 4th round. Such a good fit for the Patriots. Can learn from Ramondre Stevenson, a bruising type running back similar to that. Missed tackles. He's also a better receiving back than Ashton Jonty, who I just mentioned, who is a serviceable receiving back. But this is the kind of guy that you could still have Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson 1-2 on your depth chart, and then put Scatterbo there, who will slowly work his way up, can be a 3rd down passing back, but can also be a volume guy if you need him to be, especially if someone goes down with an injury. Mike Vrabel would love this guy's relentless motor, his toughness. I think he's already eyeing him. Like I said, probably going to be drafted in the 3rd or 4th round, could fall to the 5th round. He's a high-end RB2 or a low-end RB1, and I think that's exactly what the Patriots need. If they're lucky, able to get their number 1 wide receiver, able to get their left tackle in the first 2 rounds, I would not mind them swinging on Cam Scatterbo, either with their first pick in the 3rd round or their second pick in the 3rd round. But they are similar players. 3-down versatility, Scatterbo and Jonty. Scatterbo's numbers are just a little bit less. I think Scatterbo has the advantage in pass catching, while Jonty has the advantage in yards after contact. But Jonty's a premium swing. I don't think Scatterbo is, and I think he's a guy who could potentially be just as good if he develops over time, and certainly fits the mold of what Mike Vrabel's trying to do with the new Patriots culture there. There's also Mason Graham. Not going to talk about him too much because I've talked about him a lot already on the podcast. he seems like the obvious choice, right? If Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter off the board, defensive tackle, 6'3", just under 300 pounds, out of the University of Michigan. So he's a little undersized for a defensive tackle, but you watch him on tape, he's very bendy and able to get around the offensive lineman and use that smaller size to his advantage. 46 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 1 pass batted in 14 games this past season. Stats were a little similar the year before, had fewer tackles, but similar. Has an elite Pro Football Focus grade both of the past 2 seasons. How much of a fit is this? Patriots, very good around the edge already, very good at defensive tackle. Adding Mason Graham, they may not have the best overall pass rush in the NFL, but they would probably have the best interior pass rush if everyone's healthy and they add Mason Graham. So definitely should consider it. I just think the Patriots have already addressed defense so much in free agency that if you're really thinking about Mason Graham at 4th overall, hopefully you can trade back and then address a position of need, but we'll see how it plays out. Speaking of positions of need, Will Campbell, left tackle. Part of me is like, stay the hell away from this guy. We don't need another guard. We don't need another failed first-round draft pick at left tackle for a guy that, like I said, most people think is ultimately a guard. He's 6'6", 319 pounds, but we know his arm length is an issue. Some people believe in the arm length. Some people don't. Dante Scarnecchia says you can make up for that stuff. 32 and 5/8 inch arms, 33 inches is the line between tackle and guard in the NFL, so you're taking a real risk by drafting Will Campbell at 4th overall. Now, part of me is going, you didn't address it in free agency. Just take Will Campbell. He's probably going to be better than any other option you can have at left tackle. Hopefully he can work around those limitations, work with Scarnecchia and Marone and McDaniels. Maybe they have to, Josh McDaniels is much better at scheming tight ends as chip blockers and running backs and things like that, putting an extra blocker in there than Alex Van Pelt was. So maybe you could work around that. I'm slowly warming to the idea of drafting Will Campbell because outside of the arm length issues, he is as fundamental a left tackle as you're going to get. And, you're not getting Joe Alt, who I guess plays right tackle for the Chargers now. You're not getting that level of a tackle, but Travis Hunter not available, Abdul Carter not available. You're not getting trade back options. You think Campbell's going to go somewhere in the top 10, top 15. You might just have to take him at 4th overall, but I don't know. We'll see. Taking the best left tackle in the draft, even if there's all sorts of red flags and question marks, not the worst idea. I think there's going to be a lot of backlash if that's ultimately what the Patriots decide to do. Now, an alternative, who I mentioned a couple podcasts ago, Armin Membu, 6'4", 332 pounds, so he's a little smaller than Will Campbell. The only issue with him is he is a career right tackle at the University of Missouri. I think he's played a little bit of left tackle. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that was like high school, but he started all 13 games at right tackle this past season. But many consider him, and this is probably correct, the most talented tackle in the draft. Is he a reach at number 4? Not based on talent, but based on positional value, definitely. Now, if the Patriots think they can do what they tried to do with Caden Wallace last year and move him from right tackle to left tackle, maybe that would work. I've also heard rumors that Morgan Moses, right tackle for the Jets last year, very happy about that signing, stand-up guy. Think he's going to be a great fit, very durable for his age. There are rumors the Patriots might move him to left tackle and keep him there as a bridge for a year, address left tackle down the road, and then you put Armin Membu as your long-term right tackle. That's not the worst idea, but then again, you're also taking a right tackle and moving him to the left side. So there are no good options. I like the Simmons guy out of Ohio State, but you're not taking him at 4th overall, and you're not getting him in the 2nd round. So you're going to have to package some picks and trade back into the 1st round for him. He has some injury concerns. If it weren't for those injuries, he might be a top 5 type player and the top left tackle on the board, but there are concerns there. So no good options. Membu would not surprise me at 4th overall, though. With the way things have played out, I think we would all be shocked to hear his name on draft night, but crazier things have happened. Hearing Cole Strange's name in the first round, much more unusual than hearing Armin Membu at 4th overall. So I think the Patriots would consider it. I definitely think they should consider it if they trade back, but I don't know. No good options there at tackle. I think we're going to be talking about this again come March 2026. Last name I have here, Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, 6'6", 259 pounds. Did not test at the NFL scouting combine, but he is widely considered the best tight end in this draft in a very good tight end draft. This is not a great draft in terms of talent, but there is a lot of depth, a lot of talent at the tight end and running back positions. Ashton Jonty tops the running backs, and Tyler Warren tops the tight ends. Now, is that a reach at 4th overall? Probably. He's considered a top 15 talent. I've seen him going in the top 10, even the top 7 or 8 on many mock draft boards. But look, we know Josh McDaniels can use multiple tight ends. They got Hunter Henry, who's up there in age. They got Austin Hooper on another 1-year deal, and who knows how much longer that's going to work out. You're going to have to address the tight end position at some point. And this is a pass catcher, right? This is a potential number 1 weapon that doesn't play wide receiver. You know, when I talked about Gronk potentially coming back to the NFL a few weeks ago, I said he could come back to the Patriots and be a number 1 guy in certain spots. You get the number 1 tight end in this draft, a guy as talented as Tyler Warren, he's essentially your number 1 wide receiver, right? Size, on-field athleticism, he's a mismatch nightmare, especially if you have Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper out there. Caught 88 passes last year, over 1,000 yards at the tight end position. Won the John Mackey Award, which means he's the nation's best tight end. Could be a dynamic weapon for Drake May. Don't love it at 4th overall, but if you run out of options and you can't trade back, I think this should be a heavy consideration. And then you at least have maybe the best tight end room in the NFL. You may have the worst receiving room, but you have the best tight end room in the NFL. And you got weapons for Drake May heading into year 2. And you can continue to build on that, and Josh McDaniels can scheme around that for a year. And then we're back talking about tackles and receivers when next year comes. But I don't think it's the worst idea. Wouldn't be my top choice, but getting the best tight end in this draft, that's a real weapon for Drake May. And I don't think we should just say it's a bad idea. Like, because it's not. It's not a bad idea. You don't know who they're going to have on the board. They already have lots of good pass rushers. Mason Graham, not the best fit. Ted McMillan, we don't know if he can separate. You don't want to draft a running back 4th overall. Will Campbell, we know the questions there. Armin Membu, a reach at 4th overall. Running out of options here. Tyler Warren may be your best choice. So let me know if you disagree in the comments below. I'm curious to hear from you. Who do you see as potential wild cards for the Patriots to select at 4th overall, or even if they trade back a few picks? Curious to hear from you. Let me know. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Lots more draft coverage coming between now and the end of April. Hopefully we'll get a few more splashes in free agency. You're not going to want to miss it.
Clock's ticking.